Yo, what's going on, everybody? Good to see you. It is Wednesday, 3 p.m. here in New Vienna, Iowa, coming you from upstairs at my in-laws' house. Hope you guys are doing well today. It is July 8th, 2020. Yeah, I always have to check the date. The days have been kind of blurring together, even more so lately. We've been real sleepy here during the days because it's just so hot. So we've been kind of just we had been doing a lot of water play, playing outside, but these days it's just a little too hot. So we're just kind of taking refuge from the heat and hanging out. And that just kind of means a lot of kind of like quiet time and relaxing, which has been nice. But it just makes me feel kind of sleepy all day. I don't know if that happens to you guys, but hopefully you guys are doing well. Let's see who's here. We've got Not Really Hank Aaron, Luis Becerra, awesome, JC, Frank LaHoulier, Jeff Elliott, J. Mike Remy, Carlos Sejas. Let's see. Carlos Sejas asking, Kofuzi, what's your 5K PR? I think my official 5K PR is like 1943 or something like that. It's from a couple of years ago at this point. I didn't really train for a 5K then, and I haven't trained for a 5K since, but I say that's probably pretty accurate. I mean, I don't think I could do that today, like going out there right now, but I feel like that feels about right. I don't know that I'd be much faster than that. I'd love to be at the point where I'm at a 6-minute mile for the 5K. I don't know if that's a reason. I don't know if I'll ever be able to attain that again, but we'll see. All right, Inez Dunbar's here, and Stevie76, awesome. My mom's here as well. Hi, Mom. How are you? Kiefer Vacation. Ramiro Crawford says, I'm in here. Yo, what's going on? Good to see you, Ramiro. Was that Ramiro? Ramelro. Sorry about that. Sometimes I have a hard time reading the letters. Roll B says, yo, awesome. Jody Run says, good day, everyone. Awesome. Ryan R. 1904 says, best neutral daily trainer in 2020. See, I don't want to answer that one yet. I mean, I could say so far, because in the U.S. we haven't had the Beacon 3 yet, or maybe we have, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen it yet. So far, I've only seen it available in the U.K. So I haven't had a chance to run in it, so I don't know if that's going to be the best daily trainer. That's probably going to be up there as far as the ones that I'm thinking about. I think this is a year where a max cushion shoe might kind of sneak its way into the conversation, where the Triumph 17 might sneak in there. The Kinvara is also really good this year. Very different than other Kinvaras, but I think as a daily trainer, I think it's really good. I think it's another year where I might even slide the Boston 9 into that daily trainer category as well, because even though that's not what it's for, it's really good. The Pegasus is always in the conversation. The Clifton, well, I haven't seen the Clifton 7 yet, so I think with the daily trainers, there's still a lot of year left. It seems like all the shoes have come out, but I think there's still a couple of jewels still left in there that I'm waiting to get my hands on. So I can't answer that one yet. But there's been some very good ones so far, and there's some very good ones still coming, I hope. Reed Moore says, hello, everyone. Good news. Saw my sports med doc yesterday, and I don't appear to have a stress fracture, some imbalances to work on. Treated myself to some Rincons to celebrate. Awesome. Well, don't get into the Rincons too soon, because you still got to take care of stuff, it sounds like. But good news that it's not a stress fracture. I'll drink to that. I just got some coffee for myself today. Inez Umar says, good video today. I bet that was great running the bases. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I didn't realize that there was going to be so much news. Locally, there's been a ton of news coverage about the Field of Dreams. And every clip that they show is clips of people that are like visiting the field and just running around the bases. So I think that's pretty funny. But yeah, I enjoy running the bases around there. They leave the bases out all the time. So it's like you can run there. And they're really nice, solid bases, so you get like a good, you can stomp on them real good and get a nice push off. Very satisfying to run on, and it's just a fun place to, feel like a kid again for a couple of minutes. So I do really enjoy heading down there. But the reason it's been in the news is because, and I had a talking portion for that video, but it felt not right to just leave the video off at like kind of just the running part for today. But with everything going on with COVID, they can't. Well, the Yankees were supposed to play the White Sox, but now the Yankees aren't going to play, and now the Cardinals are going to take their place, which I feel like is a pretty good replacement because there's a lot of Cardinals fans in this area. But then now they're thinking, well, all of the like they were going to make like a weekend out of it and have like a ton of activities, and not like they're going to be kind of like, it's going to be like a concert festival. There's like the main, headliner, but then there's like the warm-up acts. There are going to be all sorts of other games as well, and other activities going on the entire weekend. All that other stuff has so far been canceled, and they're now thinking, well, maybe we won't even be able to allow fans, which is a real bummer. And I don't know how you're going to keep like the people that are from here from just like pulling up into the left field and just watching from their cars and trucks, but they're going to try and somehow do that. I'm not sure. I have a feeling it's not going to happen. But hopefully it does. The community's real bummed about it because there's going to be a lot of positive attention to the area, a lot of revenue to the area. Hopefully people would come out here, realize that it's not that far. I mean, it is far. It's 200 miles from Chicago, 200 miles from Minneapolis, So it is kind of far from places, but, a long weekend, definitely doable to come out here and visit and spend some tourist dollars. So we'll see. Jody Run says, you have to try the New Balance 880 version 10 for a daily trainer. It is so versatile. I've seen some photographs of that, and it looks to me almost exactly like the 1080 version 9. So I feel like they kind of like took the 1080 line, the direction it was going, and then diverted it to the 8. And then the 1080 version 10 went up into the fresh foam like universe. Although I think it was fresh foam in the 1080 version 9, but it has the weird like animal print like looking design and stuff. So I don't know that I'll get to the 880 this year. Maybe I will, because like a lot of the shoes, I still have a lot of running left to do this year, but I've gone through so many. So maybe I'll get to it, but we'll see. Not really. Hank Aaron says, want to have a catch. Yeah, it's a good movie. My running buddy, he can't watch that movie because it hits him close to home. So like, it's a lot of emotion in that movie. It's a good one. Carlos Ceja says, what's your favorite kind of track workout? My favorite kind of track workout is the one that's not on the track. I don't like track workouts. I actually don't like the track. But my favorite one to do is I do a 5K workout. That's probably a pretty poor 5K workout, but it's basically 5 by 800 and 1 by 1000, all at your goal 5K pace with about like 90 seconds, like walking about basically 100 meters in between each interval. So it ends up being a pretty good workout. You bang out 3 miles pretty quick for the 5K. I don't know how specifically tuned it is or effective it is probably for 5K training, you probably need to have something a little bit shorter, doing 400s, but I like 800s. I don't like anything shorter than 800. So I'm biased, I guess. Jody Run says, was waiting for you to do a slide at the home base in today's vlog. Yeah, I haven't slid in probably at least 25 years. So like I wouldn't even know where to begin on that one. So someone was mentioning, I think it was Michael Susser was mentioning, he was surprised that I didn't stomp into the puddle that was around home plate. But yeah, it was pretty muddy because it had rained real hard for a very brief period of time, but it rained real hard before that. And so the field was a little bit wet. I even slipped at the beginning of my like run around the bases, and everything was a little bit like muddy and soft. So like I didn't want to jump in that puddle because it's basically just standing water and mud. But also like I was worried that if I tried to stand in it, my foot would just come out from underneath me. So that's why I didn't slide. EL asks, are you a White Sox or a Cubs fan? It's a complicated question. Right now, I'm not really watching much of no one's watching baseball, but lately, the last couple of years, I haven't been really watching much baseball. Like the older my kids get and the more like I have family, not that I didn't have family obligations before, but like the more like, family is just taking over more and more of my like leisure activities, and running occupies a lot of that space. So everything else kind of has to fall to the wayside. I just haven't been watching any professional sports very much. I don't think I watched hardly any football last season. And I don't think this last year was like the first year I don't think we went to any games for baseball. But I grew up on the East Coast watching the Mets. So like the like Mookie Wilson, Darryl Strawberry, Gary Carter, Dwight Gooden. Those were some great players. So like that was a fun team to watch growing up. So I grew up a Mets fan. Then I moved to St. Louis for school, and I was there for the home run race. And we went to a bunch of games, so many games at that time. And so I kind of caught Cardinals fever. So I became a Cardinals fan. Cardinals' diehard nemesis are the Cubs. So when I moved to Chicago, I was moving into enemy territory. So I couldn't really just pretend I wasn't a Cardinals fan anymore because they were rivals. So I enjoy Wrigley Field quite a bit. It is probably one of the best places to watch baseball live, but I'm not a Cubs fan. I don't like American League Baseball. I like small ball. I mean, it's just played a little bit differently. So I kind of root for the White Sox. I like them. They have peanut allergy awareness days, which another thing that ingratiates them to me. But it's just like I'm not a huge AL fan, so yeah. So I don't really like either of them. It's sports allegiances are hard for me coming from the East Coast. Roll B says, do you ever listen to music on long runs? Yeah, I do frequently, especially if it's a workout. So I'll listen to a lot of music, something that's a little bit more intense, something to help keep me driving, help keep my mind off of how unpleasant it can be at times. So definitely listen to a lot of music on long runs. But lately, if it's not a workout, I'm listening to audiobooks or podcasts. So that just kind of helps me mellow out, get into a rhythm, like not focus on like working too hard, just getting out there and running and enjoying the run. Let's see. We had a question from Philippe Dassonval. Hello. Have you considering the Insta360 so you cannot see the stick when you are taking the video? I have considered running in the Insta360 I've made probably about 50 videos with it. It's a pretty cool camera. I have one with me right over there. Jeff Elliott says, I went to a Mets game around 1980 and sat in Mr. Shea's box seats. There's a picture of me very small in a Mets hat. That's pretty crazy. Very crazy. Yeah, I remember Mets games. My dad took me to one, and that was my first baseball game. And then I took my sister to one later on, like when we were adults. I mean, like young adults. But yeah, so I think I've only been to 2 Mets games in person. But yeah, that's a great place to watch baseball, except for like there's just so much else going on in like the skyline, and there's like the airport, and just like there's a lot happening. It's distracting sometimes. Carlos Seja says, who's your favorite pro runner? That's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't really have like a favorite runner. I like Steph Bruce a lot. I like Parker Stinson. He's pretty arrogant, but I feel like with age he'll mellow out and become like a little bit more of a pretty cool dude. Not that he's not a cool dude now, but I like him a lot. He's got a lot of great energy, I think. I like Suguru Osaku from Japan. I can never remember how to say his last name, but I like him as well. I just like run. I like his just like running. Like he just seems to go out there and just go after it hard. He's crazy sometimes, but those are 3 guys that I kind of pay attention. 3 runners that I pay very close attention to. Yeah, there's a lot of great runners that are out there right now, I think. But it's hard to kind of follow them right now because there's no races. So that's unfortunate. RL says, do you know why Nike decided to stop with the Epic React line? Why did they reboot to the Infinity React? I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I think because, I actually don't know, because I felt like the Epic React was really popular. But instead this year we have the Infinity React and the Mylar and no Epic React 3. At least I don't think there's going to be an Epic React 3, which is confusing. Maybe the Epic React 2 didn't sell well, but I think the reason it didn't sell well because it was exactly the same thing as the Epic React 1. So maybe they just didn't think that they could do anything to it to make it better. I mean, that's never stopped a shoe company from releasing another shoe, though. But like, I'm not that interested in the Miler or the Infinity Run React. Both those shoes are like they're great shoes. They're just not that interesting to me. I did like the Epic React a lot, but I feel like its use case overlapped so much with the Daily Trainer for the Pegasus, and I think it was starting to carry a little bit of like yeah, I don't know. I think there's some business decision there. Like the only thing that I can maybe surmise is like they couldn't get. It was either becoming too hard for people to like that. People didn't take it seriously as a real running shoe, and so they didn't want to have to fight an uphill battle for that. Maybe that's what it was. I'm not sure, but it seemed to be getting positioned as kind of like a do it all, do everything shoe, like kind of like where Ultra Boost is. Um, Maybe they didn't want to go down that slope of like, all right, everyone just thinks it's a casual shoe. Who knows? I'm not sure. Um, Dr. Funk 1216 says, awesome video today. Where did that go? I enjoyed it. He says, you're still a Mets fan in my eyes. Let's go Mets. Super Small said, Oscar really liked the running dogs video until the dogs went away. Kids. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Well, you know what? I was sad when the dog went away too. I was very glad because I was like, good, then I don't have to worry about like what I do with this dog now. But I was kind of like, oh, I was hoping he would kind of stay with me. So it's not just kids. Blaine Masterson says he sat in the Steve Bartman seats for a Cubs Mets game years ago. It was unreal. Those were good seats. He had good seats. Super Small says, go Cards. Oh, yeah. Sorry. J. Mike Remy says, interesting. Besides the Red Sox, all the other MLB teams I care for are in the NL. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the style is necessarily that different. And as much as I say I like small ball, I fell in love with the Cardinals when they were hitting home runs like crazy. But I like the strategy of baseball. And I just feel like a lot of the NL teams kind of play to that a little bit more rather than just trying to hit home runs all the time. But anyway. But yeah, the teams that I always kind of cared about were in the NL as well. But I feel like baseball goes out of its way to make it hard to be a long-term fan sometimes, I think. Because then they had like the things that were like the Houston Astros scandal that was going on, and I just don't think that they addressed it that well at all. And there's just constant like labor strife, and I don't know. I just like the reason why I stopped watching baseball when I was originally a Mets fan and I was younger is because there was a labor stoppage in the 90s. That's when I kind of stopped watching baseball because I was like, man, they got to get this together. They got to figure something out. And I just was like, all right, well, I guess there's no baseball for a while, so I'll figure out something else. And I just never really came back to it for a long time until I went to college. So, yeah. Mark Nepo Museno says, Mike, any plans of requiring the Alpha Fly for review? I'm probably going to pass on that one. I think a lot of people have already reviewed it. It's not really for me, so I think I'm going to pass on that one. Martha says, I see we have a baseball theme. I grew up during the golden age of the LA Dodgers, going to games in the Coliseum, Don Drysdale, Sandy Koufax, Frank Howard, and so on. That's so cool. One of my good friends from college, he's a diehard Dodgers fan, and he loves Dodger dogs. That's like one of his favorite things. And he played baseball in college, and then, I think for a moment he thought about trying to go like the semi-pro route, playing AA ball and see how far he could go with it. But then eventually he ended up working in the back office for a couple of baseball teams out in, I don't know if it was the team out in Rancho Cucamonga or not. But he was working out there, and then but he was working somewhere in the high desert in Southern California, and then he worked for the what was the Portland team? The Timbers are the football club, but the Timbers, he worked out there. I caught a couple of games. That's a fun place to watch sports. I watched both the soccer game and an MLS game. It wasn't MLS at the time. This was before Portland's team was MLS, but it was a soccer game, and then I saw a baseball game in Portland, so that was pretty fun. And now he's working out in Denver. He works for the Avalanche now. But yeah, he's a diehard. He would always tell me really just great Dodger baseball stories. And, growing up, I had never realized that LA was like a huge, baseball town. But it is. Very cool. Um, Stevie76 says sprinted 109.6 meters around the bases. I think is that how far I would be? I don't. I guess. How many feet is it? I wonder how many meters that translates to. That's pretty funny. Jake Holchi says, "Happy Wednesday, everyone. Late to the party due to my afternoon nap." Well, that's a great reason, especially on days like now where it's just so hot to be a little bit late. I hope you had a good nap. Jibril Sakibudin says, "What part of Chicago did you live in Chicago?" Well, I still live in Chicago. That's still my residence. But we live in Lakeview. And so that's adjacent to, I mean, I think like Lakeview and Wrigleyville, it's like they're adjacent. I wouldn't call Wrigleyville Lakeview, but like they're so close, and it's pretty much like there's like Wrigleyville, Boys Town, Lakeview. It's all like very similar. It's hard these days. It's hard to kind of tell where one ends and one begins, but that's where we live. So in between, I usually tell people it's in between Wrigleyville and Lincoln Park. JC says, grew up a Mets fan, got to see Willie Mays play against the AAA Tides in the 70s. Well, that's cool. Very cool. Michaela Pitchard says, is it Picard or is it Pitchard? Sorry. I wish I knew how to say that. It says, hi, Kofuzi. I love your movies on YouTube. I'm a big fan of and a little runner from France. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Glad to have you here today. Christina Lopez says, I know nothing about baseball, but I'm always down to eat stadium food and drink beer with my friends. Yes. I mean, that's part of what makes Wrigley Field like one of the best places to watch baseball, and where like real baseball purists get really frustrated because for a long time they had very few games at night because they didn't want to like disturb like the neighborhood, and so a lot of the games, most of the games were day games throughout the summer, and so it becomes just like this thing where in the summertime people will just leave work early and go, and it just becomes kind of like a carnival during the day. And is very much a social scene, a C&B scene kind of place when you're younger, especially. But even as you get older, too, a great time to just spend some time with your family and your friends, and have some stadium food and drink beer all day. It's nice. It's nice. I just enjoy spending time there. Yeah, it's a fun place. All right, where was that question? I lost it. Celeste Lee says, your preference, Chicago city runs or the serenity of the country? How about encounters with deers, bears, or wild turkeys? Steer clear of a wild turkey with an attitude. I know from experience. Yeah, I mean, I certainly miss running along the lakefront at the sunrise, and I think that's probably my preference. I like running in the city. I like living in the city, but I'm also very much enjoying what running is like for me out here. It's very relaxing. It's very different. The sun is very hot right now because there's just no shade where I'm running. But it's very different. There's no bears around here, not that I'm aware of. There are a lot of turkeys here, and people do go turkey hunting in this part of the state. And there's lots of deer. I've been seeing a lot of like deer families. So even they have the little fawns, they still have spots on their backside. So very cool to kind of see that. I usually end up startling them when I run by a creek because they're drinking water, and then they hear me, and then they all kind of dart off. And it's fun to watch. Like the mom will go and the dad will go, and then the baby's like trying to keep up. It's pretty fun to see that. So yeah, I've never seen a wild turkey before. I've seen a lot of pheasants. I don't know if they're pheasants or quail. I actually don't know the difference between the two. I think they're pheasants, but I've seen like these like big flocks of birds. I have seen some wild turkeys while driving. They'll be out in the fields and I'll see them, but I've never seen them while running. And yeah, so I've seen so many animals out here, so many. They seem to be attracted to me. Yeah. Kelly Benedetti says, I love mashing a banana in a bowl before adding oatmeal and then tossing in berries. Delicious. That sounds good. I like that. We didn't bring any oatmeal with us, and now I'm like regretting that we didn't when we came out here. But I mean, we can get some if we wanted to. But these days for breakfast, my mother-in-law does a lot of baking, so I've been very fortunate to have a lot of other baked goods, which are probably not as great for me to have before a run as oatmeal would be. But I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time anyway. Yuseki says, Um, Hi, you are the most positive running blogger. Dog video is incredibly cute. Well, thanks. Thanks for watching. I try to keep it positive. I mean, it's not always positive, but I try to keep it positive. Try to put good vibes out there. Jeff Elliott says, since this is going to be a baseball day, I tweeted the pic of the Mets game to you. Okay, cool. I'll have to check that out. Rain Runner says, I feel like there were so many movies about baseball in the 80s and 90s, but not so much anymore. Yeah, I mean, what was the last baseball movie that you guys watched? I'm trying to think of what the last one was. Um, yeah. Because, I mean, like, growing up, there was bad news. For me, that growing up, there was Bad News Bears. And then, like, I was kind of older for, like, Rookie of the Year, which is, like, another, like, and there was Rookie of the Year, and then The Angels in the Outfield. Like, those are movies that I was kind of, like, a little bit too old for those movies, for the target audience of those movies at that time. But there were tons. I think my favorite baseball movies are, well, I mean, Field of Dreams is definitely up there, and that was what the video was about for today. But I also really enjoy as a baseball movie. It was just on TV the other day, A League of Their Own, which is based out of Rockford, which is not that far from here. We have relatives that live out that way, and yeah, so the Rockford Peaches. So I love that movie, and I also really enjoy Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck, who is. Do you guys know? Have you guys seen Mr. Baseball? I think that's the name of the movie, Mr. Baseball. It's a movie with Tom Selleck in it, and he's kind of an old, washed-up baseball player, and he's trying to, like, you know, eke out a little bit more of career or make a little bit of a comeback. And the only team that will take him is this team in Japan, and none of the players on his team speak English, and he has to go. And it's basically the premise of the movie is like it's like one of those like '90s culture clash movies, which is I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's probably incredibly racially insensitive at this point. But growing up at the time, I was like, oh, this is a funny role reversal. I like this movie a lot, and I've also just always liked Tom Selleck for some reason, probably the mustache. But yeah, those are some of my favorite movies. Yeah, Jeff Elliott says, I remember Mr. Baseball. Yeah, that's funny. Ryan Luoma says, the tryout scene for A League of Their Own was filmed at Wrigley. I didn't know that. Huh. Funny. Very funny. Alan Kasperowicz says, bench warmers. Patrick Funk says, Waterworld. We're talking about Costner, right? That's funny. Speaking of Kevin Costner, though, remember... Like he has such an interesting career, but I remember watching Dances with Wolves, and we had that movie on videotape. It was a 2-tape set, so like in the middle of the movie, you would have to stop, take out the one video, and then put in tape 2, in order to watch the movie from beginning to end. Oh, Super Smoke says Moneyball is the most recent one I can think of. I did see Moneyball. That's true. I saw that one for sure. That was a good movie. I like that one. I usually like it when like the math nerds end up being the smart, like the heroes. So I like that one. All right. So we had a running question in here too. So Ryan Sikora says, discount season is about to drop for these shoes. So once and for all, Bondi 6 versus Triumph 17. Oh, for me all day, it's Triumph 17. Both shoes are good, but for me, I much prefer the Triumph 17. But if you're looking for something that's like really mushy, comfortable, Bondi 6, but you can still run in it. So it's not like overly mushy, but the Triumph 17 is not going to be quite as much of like it's like sinking feel to it. But I feel like it's one that there's plenty of cushion in there, but it's still like nice and like snappy in a way. So very cool. Oh yeah. Mark Nepomuceno says Magnum PI fanboys we were. Yeah, that's probably where like my Tom Selleck, like not obsession, but it probably is a bit of a man crush. I've got Warren Buffett and Tom Selleck are my guys. So that's where we're at. That's funny. Carlos Sayas is taking off. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by today. Says, any tips? Hopefully I didn't lose you. Any tips for a half training before I go? Any tips? Um, right now, if you're training for one, um, watch your hydration, watch your nutrition. Just don't get yourself into too much trouble in that situation. So I'd say watch out there. Um, yeah. So Alan Kasperowicz says, I am middle school 8th grade and my current fastest 5K is 19:08. Trying to break 19. How should I pace myself next weekend for a 5K race? Um, I would say there's there's a couple of theories to that. One would be to kind of just do even pace the entire way through. But I think for a race that's like short, like a 5K, I would say it's okay to go out a little bit fast in the beginning, especially if if it's a race where you're running with other people. So like feed off that energy, go out a little bit fast, but not too fast. You don't want to like completely wear yourself out for the end. So you might go a little bit fast, but be disciplined. If you slow down a little bit in the middle, that's okay. But then by the time you're getting to like, the 3rd kilometer, 4th kilometer, then you want to make sure you're picking up and then squeeze down and then just kind of progressively get faster, 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 work harder. So that way you can have kick at the end, but keeping in mind that like even the best kick, you're not going to make up like 10, 15 seconds. So like, you want to make sure you're working hard pretty much the entire time, but good luck. Not really. Hank Aaron says short shorts Selleck. He did wear short shorts all the time, didn't he? That's so funny. That's so funny. Lewis Cameron says, any planned dates for the FKT attempt? I'm thinking, I don't have any dates yet. I'll have to look. I'm going to also try and like do some planning and coordinate it with the calendar a little bit. So just hopefully I won't be on like one of the hottest days of the summer. But I'm thinking not this weekend, not next weekend, but like the Tuesday, Wednesday after that. So that way, like my rest day, my taper days will be like Sunday, Monday, or Monday, Tuesday, and then we'll go after it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know what date that would be. So that would probably put us at like 16, somewhere right around the 20th, I think, somewhere in that range. Samuel Kim says, hey Kofuzi, any chance you do a review on some budget runners like the Nike Windflow 7 or the Renews? I think if I were to do one, it might be the Windflow, because I feel like the Windflow, they kind of like, it's a little bit of a sleeper for them, because it's generally like just like a generation or two back. So it'd be like usually, and now things are pretty changed now because the Pegasus changed so much in the last couple of years, but usually like a Pegasus 35 is like when the Pegasus 35 comes out, the Windflow of that year is usually very similar, like on paper, to like the Pegasus 33 or even like kind of like the Pegasus 34. So that one I usually, because the thing with the budget shoes is they might look similar and kind of feel similar walking around in the store on some of the budget shoes, but usually the foams are different, and that's where like that's where the meat of the shoe is in the foam, and so that's where it looks like it'll do fine, but they're not always great. But the Windflow usually still had Cushlon in it, which was kind of before everything went to React, was like the top tier level foam. Ryan Secord says, I've never worn Ultra, but you have been reviewing them rather positively lately. How are you liking the design compared to, say, tighter-toed normal, quote-unquote, running shoes? I like the design. I think that's fine. Because, like the New Balance shoes are starting to get kind of that way too, where like they're more like flared towards the outside to give your toes more room to spread a little bit more naturally. So I'm fine with the design. I like it. The only thing I don't like is like on the Ultra Escalante, they make it look like there's a footprint on the bottom of the outsole. I just feel like that's really weird. I was watching, it reminds me of like skeuomorphism, that when you see it now, it looks really like just so dated. I was watching a show on TV. It was, I forget what it's called, but it's basically a show about flipping, not houses, but motorhomes. And a person was taking pictures on her iPhone of this motorhome she was thinking about buying, and she was going to send it to her partner, her business partner, which I think is her husband. But she had like an older iPhone where when you took the picture, it looked like the shutter was closing, and so like it did that thing where like the pieces like mechanically closed in and then they opened back up again, and I was like, wow, that looks really old. That's what I feel like when I look at the bottom of the Ultra Escalante. I'm like, ah, oh, that's cute and quaint, but the shoe itself is great. And I really like the design of the Superior. It looks like a shoe that means business, so I like it. Um, Jai or High Page says, running in the Infinity React in 90-degree weather, it felt like I was jogging in quicksand or melting into pavement. Be careful with squishy shoes. Learned the hard way. Ankles, knees, and calves suffered. Yeah, that's hard. I'm sorry that happened. But I think that the compound in the React foam isn't necessarily going to, shouldn't really react change its mechanical properties too much, even in heat. I think that's like one of the benefits of putting a little bit of rubber into that midsole. But just running in those temperatures generally in a squishier shoe, yeah, it's a little bit harder once you get tired, once things kind of start getting wet. I feel you. All right. Kind of question about, Dr. Funk 1216 says, do you think the Adidas shoes and technology is behind other running shoe companies? I don't think so. I just think that they're using it in a really, like, here's the reason why. I don't think that Boost is all that different than Power Run Plus. So I feel like Saucony has shown us that something that kind of looks like Boost and behaves like Boost can be really exciting to run in 2020. And I'm really hoping that like Adidas is like buying a whole bunch of Saucony shoes and tearing them apart and figuring out what makes them tick, so that they can reverse engineer it, assuming there's no patents that would apply to that. But because I would love to see Adidas to be able to use Lightstrike or Lightstrike and Boost in a way that is more exciting. But that being said, I love the Boston 9. I ran in them twice this week, or in the last week, because when I'm like, I don't have a specific shoe that I need to run in, I just need to log some miles in some of the shoes and get through them, Boston 9's like kind of at the top of my list. Like, oh wait, I'm going to pick that one and I'll go with that. And that's Lightstrike and Boost. And I think it's a really great shoe. Speaking of the Boston, Reed Moore says he found Bostons and pegs for about $40 or $50. Yeah, I mean, I've been getting a lot of questions about the Boston 8 lately. People asking me if it's still a good bargain or whatever. I think that if you can find the Boston 8 with Lightstrike, that's probably a real steal. But even the ones that don't have Lightstrike in it, the earlier Boston 8, that was a great shoe too. So yeah, for sure. I don't think it's necessarily the technology isn't behind. They just got to figure out a way to like make it work a little bit better. Again, like what I would love to be able to know is like when they design each of these shoes, who is like the poster child runner that they're designing for when they're designing the Ultra Boost. Are they designing it for Seth Fowler and Hez Kicks? Or are they designing it for a runner like me or Ed Bud or Andy? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. I have a feeling they're very expertly designing it for those poster child runners or people. But I don't think that I'm on one of those posters. You know what I mean? Or a runner like me is on those posters all the time. So that's where I'm like, maybe they're focusing on half marathon runners or 10-mile runners, you know? So I don't know. So I don't think they're behind. I just think that what I want from them and what they're doing is different. It's causing a little bit of dissonance. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are getting it wrong. I don't know. Reed Morris talking about reviewing budget shoes. And I would agree with you, Reed, on this one. He says, I would say discounted previous gen of a higher end shoe before a budget shoe. That's usually the way that I recommend everyone as well is, the Windflow is, I think, the exception to the rule, but for the most part, people have been saying nice things about the Nike Gravity as well. But I don't know, the Nike doesn't specify what foam is in the Gravity, which makes me think it's a cheaper, like knockdown, like an economy foam in it. But people have been saying nice things about it. But I think there are exceptions to it. But I think for the most part, I would rather have someone run in like a top tier shoe that's a year old that you can find a good price on rather than finding like the budget options. Let's see. All right. What else do we have here? Lewis Cameron says, Kofuzi, did you sign up for the Boston 26.2 virtual? I did not. I don't really like. I mean, I'm gonna I'm gonna be doing like a 29-mile run by myself soon in a couple weeks. We were talking about that FKT attempt, but and I did a 10K time trial just a couple of days ago, like last week. But that being said, I don't like virtual racing, so yeah, I can understand why a lot of people want to do it. And I think that's awesome. If that's something that like really appeals to someone, I will not for a second knock it, but it's just not for me. Steve says, I've built up to 45 to 55 miles per week. How often, if at all, should I have a slightly lower week? Then if so, after that, could I jump up to 55 or higher or back up on the 10% rule? I think it depends on what your goals are for right now, Steve. If you're at like 45 to 55 and it doesn't feel like it's taxing you, that can just be your new normal, right? And that could just be like what you're running at in the absence of like a specific race that you're training for. But if you're trying to get somewhere, if you're trying to get to like 65 miles or 70, then I would say use that 10% rule, 10% each week for 3 weeks, back off a little bit, and then go back up more after that. And so that's kind of how I would approach it. But I mean, right now I think that I'm settling in right around like 70 to 75 miles per week is like, I've been up in the 80s for a little bit. I did that 100-mile week, which was very tiring. But I'm thinking like 70s, like especially with the heat right now, is a good number for me. So I'm just kind of gonna cruise at that for a little while, probably for the next month and a half or so, until we get to like September and things start to cool down at least a little bit. Blaine Masterson says, shoot, I picked up a pair of SL20s off a running warehouse today. Did I make the wrong choice? I don't think so, because the prices that they're selling the SL20 at is ridiculous. So I just think it's an amazing shoe. I don't know that, maybe I'll try it. Maybe on my next like just regular run day, like easy day, I'll take the SL20s out for a regular run to see how I like it. I did that for the past 2 runs in the Boston 9s, and it was fine. Towards the end of my run today, I was like, if this shoe had a little bit more cushion in it, I wouldn't be angry right now. So like right around like mile 11, that's what I was thinking. But it's very capable as a daily trainer if you want to use it that way. It probably wouldn't be my first choice, but it can serve that role. The SL20, I'm not as sure, but I'll put that to the test. We'll see. We'll see how it does, how it goes. But I mean, I don't know what price that they're selling at now, but for a while it was super discounted and an amazingly good value. So I don't think that you're going to make a mistake picking that one up. All right. Brian Wen says, is anyone paying you to do this live stream? JK, have you tried the Arahi 4? That's funny. That took a left turn that I wasn't expecting. And we'll probably end the live stream with this question here today. No one is paying me to do it. Occasionally there are super chats that come in, and I'm very thankful for those. You guys don't feel the need to do that, but it is greatly appreciated. And I think that like the monetization, like the YouTube stuff, will happen on the replays of this. So there is something that comes in from it, but no, not getting paid to them. And in terms of, I'm not getting paid to do them. I just like doing them at this point. But in terms of the Arahi 4, I have not tried it. I've never tried an Arahi before. The Arahi, if I'm not wrong, is a stability shoe, though, isn't it? Am I wrong on that? I think that is a stability shoe. If it is, I probably won't take a look at it, because I generally like to avoid stability shoes, because they tend to mess with me in a little bit in a way that I don't like. All right. Tony says, sometimes I re-listen to these podcasts and it helps me sleep. I've been told that a lot, especially by my students, that my voice can put people to sleep. So I think that's a great way to replay the live streams. All right, I think I'm going to end it there for today. Thanks everyone for joining in the live stream. there was no set topic for today. So you guys coming in and chatting and giving me stuff to talk about and just having conversation is what makes it awesome and makes it fun. So I really appreciate you guys spending time with me today. And I hope I made your afternoon or your time at work or whenever you're listening to this a little bit more pleasant. I'll have another video tomorrow. I think tomorrow's video is going to be an update on the Grit Summer Running Project. I think that's what I have in store. And then we'll do another live stream tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, so it's going to be happy hour. So don't forget to set your clocks for 3 o'clock again, same time tomorrow. Hopefully I'll see you guys then. In the meantime, hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everybody.